Tonight, MSPs prepare to vote on assisted dying. We hear from both sides of the debate on whether terminally ill people should be free to take their own life.
I used to work for Animal Concern, and if I'd seen someone leaving a dog to die that way, I could have had them prosecuted.
We're just so concerned that what begins as a choice might become a pressure and then actually a duty to die.
Also making the headlines, the UK government cracks down on immigration. Keir Starmer says the plans will take back control of UK borders, but care workers here say they're worried for the sector. And in sport, Hearts make their move for Kilmarnock boss Derek McInnes.
We'll have all the very latest on Hearts' pursuit of their new head coach. We're live from Tynecastle.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. In about 24 hours' time, MSPs will vote on one of the most sensitive questions they'll ever face. Should terminally ill adults be given the right to end their lives when they want? Those in favour have argued that new legislation would provide dignity in dying. Those opposed say the bill would put some of the most vulnerable in society at risk of exploitation or worse. Well, in a moment, we'll get a sense of the political mood. But first, our reporter Ollie Dickinson has been hearing from both sides of the difficult debate.
Mary Robbins spent the final months of her life housebound and being looked after by her husband John, her family and carers. The grandmother had pancreatic cancer and told those around her she wanted to end her life.
She pled with me to end it for her, and I couldn't. You just can't do that. And her last 3 or 4 weeks, especially the last fortnight, were quite simply hellish. Why keep somebody in that position for just that 2 or 3 weeks? She's been better. She knows she would have been better out of it. She wanted to be out of it. Nobody could do anything. I used to work for Animal Concern, and if I'd seen someone leaving a dog to die that way, I could have had them prosecuted.
John too now has terminal cancer and says he wants the right to choose when and how he dies.
I don't want to die, but not many people avoid it. And at the end, it should be painless, dignified, and help people end their life without pain, without suffering. That, to me, would be a Christian thing to do.
However, those who oppose assisted dying say they have concerns about who would be able to end their lives and why they might choose to do it.
We'd really counsel MSPs to vote against the legislation tomorrow. We're just so concerned that what begins as a choice might become a pressure and then actually a duty to die. So we don't want to put pressure on those people who feel vulnerable and a burden already, but instead give them better care.
Instead of assisted dying, Dr. Wright and others want to see specialist end-of-life care prioritised.
There needs to be clear thinking, not just more money, although that is undoubtedly being asked for by the hospice sector, but a different way of spending that money. And we know that for example, there are more MSPs than there are specialist palliative care doctors in Scotland. And so you can see that it may take time for people to see someone if they have particularly difficult symptoms.
Tomorrow's vote will be the third time Holyrood has had its say on assisted dying. MSPs won't be guided by their parties on how to vote. It's entirely each individual's choice. The First Minister John Swinney won't be supporting it, nor will Labour leader Anas Sarwar. But Scottish Conservative leader Russell Finlay will support the bill for now. Many more, though, are still wrangling with the personal and the politics of this most challenging of subjects. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
Well, our political editor, Colin Mackay, will of course be in Parliament tomorrow for the vote. Colin, how do you think it's going to go?
I've spoken to both sides today. Everyone agrees this is incredibly tight. But interestingly, both of them think that the balance tomorrow will be just to get a positive vote at stage one, that this will get through. Now, quite a few MSPs have been wrestling with their consciences over the course of the week, including the Health Secretary, Neil Gray. He's going to abstain tomorrow. He says he's not woosing out of making a tough decision, but because he would be the minister who would have to see it through if it does go through tomorrow, he's going to stay neutral. Scottish Conservative leader Russell Finlay says he'll vote for it at stage one, but that's just stage one of a three-stage process. There's still a long way to go, and a lot could change by the end of that. Former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says today that she's voting against this. That came as no surprise whatsoever. She's voted against it twice before. But what she also said was that this is, she thinks, the toughest decision she's ever had to make in her 25-year career as an MSP. So maybe that shows that things have moved over the last 10 years since the last time this was voted on. People who were resolute then maybe aren't quite so resolute now, and there's many MSPs who haven't voted on this before. But there are a few who still have to make up their minds. Some of them say they won't be able to do that until they've actually seen how the debate goes in Parliament tomorrow. So with just 24 hours to go, this vote on assisted dying is still in the balance. And I'll have more on Scotland Tonight later.
Indeed you will. All right, Colin, thank you very much for that. The care sector will no longer be able to recruit carers from overseas under tighter rules on immigration announced by the Prime Minister. Keir Starmer said the package of measures was needed to protect jobs and stop the UK becoming what he called an island of strangers. But care workers in Scotland say they're concerned about how staffing will be impacted moving forward. Our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertzianis has more.
Looking after residents at this care home in Dunfermline, Nwaneka Juliana knows all about the struggles facing the care sector.
We don't have enough staff, so every time, every day, each day that passes, the care sector is actually like in a struggle. It has a huge impact on the people, the elderly ones, or the residents we are taking care of. Like 3 or 4 people might need the same thing, a certain thing at the same time, and then you've not got staff to do that.
She also knows what it's like for immigrants like her who want to come and work in the UK.
I would say it's already difficult. I would even say it might be. It's already difficult for them because some of them have got this ambition that they are going to travel abroad and then they're going to take their families, their dependents and everyone. I was in this position before when I've got my kids back home and I'm just me and my husband. So I actually know how I felt.
Eventually, her children were able to join her in Scotland. But already, care workers from abroad face tougher rules to bring dependents to the UK. Now, a major immigration crackdown will make those rules even tougher.
We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
The care sector will be barred from recruiting overseas. Other sectors will have to show they are training local workers before being able to look abroad. Foreign workers will need to speak English, and any family members will have to show knowledge of English too. And the wait to claim British citizenship will be doubled from 5 years to 10 years. Nwaneka Juliana's employers say it could have a damaging impact.
We have found the supply and the interest of people from overseas to be able to come and make a life in this country, using care as their way to do that. And I would say it's going to have a huge impact because there are a huge number of overseas workers who are holding the sector up.
There's no getting away from the huge increase in immigration in the past 5 years. Net migration, which measures the increase in the population by counting everyone coming to the UK and everyone leaving, stood at just over 200,000 back in 2019. But that shot up to nearly 1 million in 2023, and last year still stood at over 700,000, keeping immigration near the top of the list of people's political concerns. Keir Starmer says this isn't about politics, but his immigration overhaul comes 2 weeks after local elections in England won by Reform, and with Nigel Farage's party leading UK-wide polls. By promising to bring down the numbers where others have failed, the Prime Minister is staking his political reputation.
So Paris, concerns from the care sector in your report there. What other reaction has there been?
Yeah, Kellyanne, not just care under pressure. Construction was another sector the Prime Minister singled out as needing to train more UK workers rather than recruiting overseas. There's concern from universities too, because graduates will have less time to find a job after they graduate and be able to stay in the UK. Universities relying on international fees, and many in Scotland are already under financial pressure. The Scottish Government has come out strongly against these plans. SNP ministers say they don't suit Scotland's needs, particularly in parts of the country that have a falling population. They want Scotland to have control over its own immigration rules. That's not in this plan, though.
All right, Paris from Westminster, thank you for now. The investigation into the murder of a boxer in Glasgow has ended after a man detectives wanted to question fell from a window and died. Josh Taplin was found dead in Knightswood earlier this month after being stabbed. Police have confirmed that the 37-year-old man they were looking to interview in connection has died. A fun fair in Edinburgh has been forced to close after a waltzer with children inside detached mid-ride. 3 children were riding in the cart going full speed when the incident happened at the Galactic Carnival in Wester Hailes on Saturday. They were later taken to hospital and treated for minor injuries. Fun fair organisers have apologised and closed down the event while an investigation takes place. Unions representing workers at Scottish Water are warning they could resume strike action after failing to agree a pay deal. Unite, Unison and the GMB suspended industrial action last week after being promised an improved offer. They say they have still not received it and are accusing the company of a failure of leadership.
It will be back on as our members want to resolve this, and at this point the dispute still remains. The issue of pay has not been resolved. There is no offer to put to our members to have a vote on it. Therefore, the dispute continues because of the incompetence of Scottish Water Management.
A wildfire which has destroyed a significant area of forestry land in West Lothian has been described by a senior fire officer as one of the worst he's dealt with. Emergency crews have spent a third day at the scene of the outbreak near Falthouse, and with dry weather set to continue, we're all been urged to take care in the countryside. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
These burned out forestry vehicles just highlight the intensity of the fire which swept through the woods between Longridge and Falthouse. Overnight, the flames lit up the sky, and today efforts to make the area safe go on.
This is one of the biggest I've certainly faced as an incident commander over the years, absolutely. It's just, as I say, the rapid fire spread, the wind conditions, it's all contribute towards the rapid fire spread, the dry conditions. And again, these type of fires don't start themselves. So human behaviour is often at the back of why these types of fires started, and that's why we'd ask you to be extremely cautious when outside during such weather.
Fire crews have been here since lunchtime on Saturday. At the height of the incident, 50 firefighters were involved. Over the weekend, a helicopter was used to bring more water in an attempt to douse the flames. This is the reality of the destructive power of the wildfire. Everything that should be green is now black. Anything living on the ground has turned to ash. The heat is really radiating back at us. Some of it is still smoking, and this is a scene that is repeated deep into the forest. The outbreak is now under control, but the fire service will remain on the scene until tomorrow, continuing to dampen down and ensure any hotspots don't flare up again. Gordon Cree, STV News, Falthouse.
A man has been charged after a 71-year-old woman died following a disturbance at a house in Glasgow. Emergency services were called to Newfield Square in Nitz Hill on Saturday night. Margaret McGowan was pronounced dead at the scene. A 78-year-old man has been charged in connection with her death. The first statue has been removed from George Square for restoration. The Robert Burns statue was taken off its plinth earlier, with a further 10 statues expected to be lifted in the next fortnight. George Square is closed until late next year as conservation work takes place for the City Council's Avenues project.
It's probably the largest UK sculpture project in the last 50 to 100 years in terms of dealing with sculpture en masse like this. So it's quite a significant size project. And we're lucky enough to obviously, first of all, get the job of doing it.
Holidaymakers say they're finding innovative ways to get to Glasgow Airport after drop-off fees went up again. That's after it went up to at least £6 to use the special zone. Meanwhile, those using the express bus service say they're also counting the costs. Raheem Cham reports.
It is a service that runs every 10 minutes. First Bus's 500 express service to Glasgow Airport takes approximately 15 minutes to get travellers from Buchanan bus station to the terminal. The company says it's committed to affordable services, but passengers say the £11 ticket is expensive.
It's very difficult for people to afford to have to pay £11 just to get, what, a 30-minute journey, not even 30 minutes.
This must be like £5. This would be okay, I think.
I think probably relatively everything is quite expensive now, so people really need to meet up to what is in the market.
Compared to other cities, and certainly compared to European cities, extremely expensive.
Without a direct rail link to the airport, a bus, taxi or driving your own car are the only options for most people. But that is becoming even more expensive, with a £6 drop-off charge now in place. Some have found a way to avoid it.
We're a few hundred meters away from Glasgow Airport, just off White Cart Road. And this area you're seeing just right at the BP garage is the new drop-off area that people are using, trying to avoid that £6 drop-off charge. It is just a 10-minute walk towards the terminal, which is the new norm people are doing.
Aye, well, you shouldn't charge folk to just come into an airport for 5 minutes or so it should be free.
It is extortionate, and they should have a free drop-off area. And there's absolutely no reason.
Because we got dropped off for free over here, but yeah, that's crazy, it's too much.
Glasgow Airport says customers can park for free for 1 hour or make use of a 24-hour shuttle bus to and from the terminal. Edinburgh Airport charges £6 for 10 minutes and then adds £1 per minute after the first 10 minutes. Campaigners, meanwhile, say taking the region's transportation system under public ownership will create cheaper fares.
We'd like to see a municipal bus company like Lothian Buses in Edinburgh set up for the Strathclyde region to operate all of the system, because I think that's what makes sense, and it would allow all of the profits and any sort of revenue that's generated through fares to be reinvested in the transport system, which is what we need to move to a more sustainable society.
In the meantime, some passengers rather use this manoeuvre, take the 10-minute walk and avoid the drop-off charge. Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Well, lots happening in sport, so let's get straight to it with Rahman.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Spring Sale.
Good evening. Hearts have made an official approach to Kilmarnock in a bid to appoint Derek McInnes as their next head coach. The Tynecastle club have been searching for a successor to Neil Critchley following his sacking, and McInnes is the man they want. Live now to Ronnie Charters, who's at Tynecastle. So Ronnie, what's the latest?
Well, Rahman, we understand that Derek McInnes has been Hearts' #1 choice to replace Neil Critchley after he was sacked last month, and today the Gorgie club have made their move. Talks have opened between both clubs over a compensation fee to speak to Derek McInnes directly, but as it stands at the moment, we understand that Kilmarnock will not stand in Derek McInnes' way should he wish to move to the capital. We understand McInnes will take training as Kilmarnock manager tomorrow, and as it stands, he will address the media tomorrow as well ahead of their match against Motherwell on Wednesday. Now, McInnes has been at Kilmarnock since January of 2022, guiding them to the Championship title, guiding them to Europe for the first time since 2011, and as of last weekend, guiding them to Premiership safety, an impressive 3-2 win over Dundee, ensuring they remain in the top flight yet again. And today, we've been gauging the reaction here in the capital about McInnes possibly taking over at Hearts.
It's not bad. I mean, he's got good experience and he would steady the ship. I'm not mad about him, but I think you've got to get behind him, and I think he would do a decent job.
Slightly doubtful because of negative play, but if he gets the job,
I would back him.
I wouldn't mind being in Europe every year for a night. If he can do it with Aberdeen, he'll do a lot better with Hearts.
Well, he's proved himself. And he's a good manager. You know, he didn't leave Aberdeen for fun.
Personally, I'm not a great fan of Scottish football managers being recycled through all the different clubs. So if Hearts decide to go for him, we'd have to give him a chance.
Well, Hearts interim head coach Liam Fox will take training tomorrow, and he's steadied the ship, really, hasn't he, here at Tynecastle? 2 wins in the last 2 matches, including an impressive 3-0 win over Motherwell at the weekend. 2 games left this season, and wouldn't you believe it, the final game is a trip away to Kilmarnock. The big question, though, in which dugout at Rugby Park will Derek McInnes be sitting in on that final day? Will it be Kelly or will it be Hearts? A big appointment for the Hearts board. 2 sacked managers already this season, and they can ill afford, Rahman, to get it wrong for a 3rd time.
Indeed, Ronnie at Tynecastle, thanks very much for that. Liam Balogun says he hasn't given up hope of being offered a new contract at Rangers, but admits he has to be patient as he waits to hear the club's plans for next season. Meanwhile, Brendan Rodgers says he's already told his players his starting 11 for Celtic's match away to Aberdeen on Wednesday. Our Premiership roundup begins with the latest at Ibrox, where Barry Ferguson's wait for a home win came to an end. It's taken 6 games, but finally Barry Ferguson secured his first win at Ibrox as Rangers manager, with Hamza Igaman scoring the pick of the goals in the 4-0 thrashing of Aberdeen. It's a waiting game not just for Ferguson to learn who will be the next permanent manager, but also for some soon-to-be out-of-contract players like Liam Balogun to see if they will be offered new deals.
It's written in the stars, I'll trust the big man upstairs and some people up here in the club, so we'll see. I'm very blessed that my father from a young age taught me the value of patience. So I'm just going to have patience as always, as I've had all my life with many things, and then I have to see what was happening.
At Celtic Park, the champions were given a guard of honour by Hibs. That goodwill was soon gone as Martin Boyle put the visitors 1 up. But as they often do, Celtic responded, with Nicholas Kuhn, Adam Ida and Rio Hatate all scoring. Next up for Brendan Rodgers' side are Aberdeen, the team they also face in the Scottish Cup final. St Mirren kept alive their hopes of finishing 5th and securing a European place with an impressive 2-0 victory away to Dundee United. Stephen Robinson's side host Hibs on Wednesday. And bottom club St Johnstone gave themselves a lifeline after defeating Ross County 2-1. Partick Thistle co-manager Mark Wilson hopes he and Brian Graham give the club food for thought over the appointment of a permanent boss as they try and secure promotion to the top flight, while Livingston manager David Martindale believes his team will have the advantage on the fitness front ahead of tomorrow's first leg Premiership semi-final playoff. The Jags, who appointed Wilson and Graham as interim managers until the end of the season, secured their place in the next stage of the playoffs after defeating Ayr United over 2 legs. After finishing 2nd in the Championship, Livy went straight to the semis. Their last match was 10 days ago.
Look, it gives Ian Baraclough a decision to make, maybe a tougher decision than they would hope. Probably coming in, he's maybe just looked at it and thought these guys will hold the fort. Brian and I can only do the job that we've done so far, and where that takes us, who knows. So it's a tough decision, but I think we've gave ourselves every chance. If it's sort of audition, I think we've done okay.
I think there's a lot been taken out of them over the last 3 games in terms of Friday, Tuesday, Friday, so we've got a wee bit of an advantage going into the game in terms of intensity and tempo. They've put a lot into the last 3 games.
To rugby, and Sione Chipolotto says he's desperate to make up for lost time as he's set to return to action for Glasgow Warriors this weekend for the first time in 4 months. The Scotland captain missed the whole of the Six Nations after sustaining a pectoral muscle injury in January. The Warriors travel to Leinster this weekend following a heavy defeat away to Benetton on Saturday.
You know, I've done 14 weeks rehab now and I've had no time off because I'm so desperate to get back on the field. You know, I don't want to go away and my mind's good, you know, I want to play rugby. I miss the responsibility of having to play well so my team can win. So all of that will contribute to, I feel like, the player that I'll be when I get back on the grass.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Spring Sale.
And that, folks, is all of your sport tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow. Gillian.
All right, Rahman, thank you. Well, the weather has been gorgeous and it's set to continue. Here's Sean with the weather.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV weather.
Very good evening to you now. I was up late last night totting up the rainfall figures we've seen so far this spring. Pretty shocking stuff. Have a look at this. If you average the amount of rainfall across Scotland, this is how much we've had so far this spring. Of course, we've still got another couple of weeks left, but it's not until the end of May we might start to see a change, and we would need to really catch up, because look at the last 10 springs back to 2015. This one, very, very dry. This is pretty astonishing stuff as well. The Costa del Sol in Malaga, look at that, 260 millimetres since the start of March. East Lothian has only had 14 millimetres. Incredible difference. Yes, it has been much wetter in Spain, but the likes of even Tiree has beat Mallorca and also the Costa del Sol. It's been drier for us here since the start of March than it has been there. And for the foreseeable, it does remain dry. Although we have seen a few heavy showers getting sparked off across southwestern parts, still the risk of one or two of those over the next couple of hours, but largely it's dry, plenty of sunshine to end the day, lots of clear skies around tonight. Quite chilly in central and eastern parts. We'll see some mist and low cloud coming in from the North Sea, and that stretches its way through the central belt towards Glasgow, Renfrewshire and Bartonshire to start with tomorrow. So a bit of a cool, cloudy start central areas. That all burns its way back towards the east coast. And this week, it is just blue skies through most of the week and some pretty high temperatures as well. I think probably top spots this week are going to be lights of Glencoe, Kinlochleven, Fort William, Oban. We will go up to 25 degrees tomorrow. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, blue skies, temperatures into the low to mid-20s, cooler on the east coast. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV weather.
And it's looking lovely. Well, that's all we have time for. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.